Thank you so much for joining me. I am so glad that you are here today. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me, ma'am. I really appreciate it.
Now, let's start with this. What part of Nigeria are you from?
I'm from Anambra State, Igbo land.
Igbo land, yeah. And where are you located right now?
I live in Canada. I live in Calgary, Alberta, yeah.
Okay. And how long have you left home?
I left the shores of Nigeria in 2003, I think so. Yeah.
Wow, it's been a long time then. So your husband is here, your children are here?
Yep.
How many children do you have?
I'm blessed with 2 beautiful children.
Wow, boys, girls?
Boy, girl.
Oh, well, you have one of both, so you don't have to. I guess are you done? Does that mean you're done?
I'm done. I'm hanging my boots already.
Oh my God. Well, because look, the group that are watching you right now, it's an OBGYN group. So that is run by 2 wonderful men that are doing awesome work. And so this time that I've been given is to talk more about PTSD, which is post-traumatic syndrome, stress syndrome, to really look at it from the perspective of people that are coming from silent cultures like Africa, because a lot of the people in the group are Africans. And so because of that, we wanted them to see PTSD, how it really looks like, how it can look like from somebody who is on the other end, who looks like them, who's lived like them, who is them. So this is my reason for bringing you aboard here. And that's why I wanted you to introduce yourself so that some of them will know that you are a Nigerian. So what do you know about PTSD?
Let me tell you, PTSD, I think the first time I actually heard of it was not too long ago, though, when I started going for therapy abroad in the Western world, right? Because back home in Nigeria, I never heard anything like that. I didn't know what it was. So when I started going for therapy, I had to start going for therapy because of all that I went through growing up as a child.
Well, we're going to talk about that because it's important for them to know. If you don't mind, if you have the freedom, I would like for you to share a little bit about your story so that they will understand why we are talking about, okay, you probably have PTSD that was left undiagnosed. So can you share with the group just a tidbit about your story?
Okay, I for as far as I can remember, I was molested from, I can't even remember at what age, but all I remember was somewhere between 4 and 5 when this particular relative, cousins actually, I was molested by family members, very close family members, and they would lap me on their legs and start fondling me with their penis and all of that. So I got molested up until I was at the age of thereabout 14, shortly before my 15th birthday, I think, where I was raped by one of these family members, and that resulted in a teenage pregnancy, and which he did remove himself anyway, and without anesthetics and wide awake. And that molestation continued up until I was about 19 or 20 or something, somewhere around there.
By the same person or different people?
By the same group of people, by the same group of family members. I had family doctors as well molest me. I had, because I was already vulnerable, so I was being taken advantage of by, family doctors. I was actually raped by one of our family doctors in his clinic. I was molested by close clergies, people in the, in that spiritual leaders, people I looked up to. So my journey from childhood up until I was a young adult was a miserable one. But I kept on, people, I built this wall, and so people did not know. A lot of people still get shocked when they hear my story till tomorrow, because they'll believe, oh, we grew up with you in the same neighborhood. We were with you in the same church. we went to university with you. We were classmates with you in primary school. Are you sure you went through all of this? But then I did. So I went through all of it. And so that's my story. That's my story. And I mean, I can't talk about it and not get emotional. But so it's not until I got married, because it was tough for me to even make up my mind in the first place to get married, because I was scared. I didn't trust men. I was molested. I was taken advantage of by men and women as well.
Let me stop you there, because you mentioned your husband. When you met your husband, did you share with him what you went through?
Oh, my husband actually knew part of my story even before we got married. In fact, the very day I was raped by this family doctor, because I was on admission in his hospital, and he ended up, like I couldn't move. Like I was on IV. Like I was like that. I was rushed from school, my high school, and I couldn't move. I was so sick. And so all that was moving was my eyes. And he just did his thing and got out. And so that very day, my husband was in the university. He was in medical school. So he came visiting.
Wow.
So he came visiting. And so I cried on his shoulders. I told him, so, and then he knew a large chunk portion of my story.
Now let me because when you say, because I'm sure that a lot of people are probably thinking what I'm thinking now, that okay, you were raped by one person, and it seemed like almost like it became a spirit that was coming after you, and so that everyone that saw you saw that mark, and they felt like you became a mark.
Honestly speaking, I will address that. I think that's what it was. And up until, and it was a struggle for me, because it made me to start going for deliverances. Because I met with Christ along the way. And so I was like, okay, it made me feel something was wrong with me, because, for example, there would be 10 young girls or 5 young girls, and all of us will be in the same room and meet the same group of people, but I'll be the only one that they end up want to go to bed with, want to have. So it made me feel like there was something, there was a spirit, that was a spell. I didn't know what to call it, but up until not too long ago, even in my marriage, I still felt like that, because I think it was not until 2014, not too long ago, 2015, that I would still perceive the stench of this particular one that raped me and got me pregnant. His stench followed me everywhere. So even when I'm having sex with my husband, I will be perceiving his stench.
Wow.
Husband. So it is a spirit on its own. It is not normal.
So now, here's the thing though, because a lot of times, because with us, right, we believe that with mental health is both spiritual, and also there's also the chemical part of it, but there's also spiritual. So yours, what you're describing now, we're looking at, we're going to talk about the signs, the symptoms, and the things that went undiagnosed, versus also even the one that you're describing now, that's almost like spiritual, because it's almost like you've been marked, and it doesn't matter where you hide, it finds you. That's right. Until you have to get up from underneath that spirit to be delivered, to now begin. Once you're delivered, then now the actual work begins, where you now go to therapy and start breaking down some other things. So tell us, because of all these things that you've been through, how have those things manifested in your life? What kind of signs, symptoms, PTSD, anxiety, how has it manifested? Because let me say this, there are people who are going to be watching this right now. They might not want to tell the truth, but I can guarantee you that in Nigeria that we have today, 1 in 3 homes are experiencing sexual abuse. 1 in 3 homes.
Oh, Dr. Princess is worse than that.
And I think it's worse than that.
It's worse than that because you're talking about the cases that you know. What about those that you don't know?
And a lot of it you don't know. A lot you don't even know.
I've had the privilege of talking with a lot of families, you know, people that are all grown, that most of them live abroad. And, you know, when they hear my story, I'll have them either come to me, write email or text message or messenger, somehow or I meet them at an event and they go like, I remember, oh, this happened to my elder sister, or this happened to my younger brother, or this happened to my mom, or this happened to my aunt. I can tell you that this is literally in every family in Nigeria. There is a bit of incest somewhere going on in every family. And it's becoming worse. It's becoming worse. And not just only in Nigeria, to be fair, it's everywhere, because I've been privileged to speak in quite a good number of countries, you know, and so we find this everywhere, you know, we find it everywhere. It's becoming very rampant. And so going back to your question, you know, some of the things I went through and maybe still going through, because it's real and it's a struggle, it's real. You know, some days you don't want to get out of bed and all of that. And you're constantly dealing with your emotions, you're dealing with your moods and all of that. But, you know, like I was saying to somebody 2 days ago, I said, your joy and your happiness has to be intentional. You know, like I was driving 2 days ago and that was what I had in my spirit, because I was just crying. I was just driving, and which is one of my therapies. I love to drive. When I'm in that mood, I can be behind the wheels and just drive for 10 hours, just listening to music, just crying and shouting if I need to. Just listening to music, but driving and drinking my coffee. And by the time I'm done the 10 hours or 5 hours or 3 hours, whatever it is, I'm good. And so for me, it was that fear. It was that, that kind of, okay, because initially I didn't even want to marry because I was scared. And I looked at my husband and I said, and when it was like boiling down that, oh, it's going to be him, I was like, no, this guy is too good. Like, I don't want to hurt him and all of that. So, and I don't want to have children because I don't want somebody to hurt my children. So it was like, I was so messed up. I was like, my mind was, I still share this story. I remember a particular day when in the midst of all this, I think I had finished my high school. No, I was in the university. I think my first year in the university or something. And I remember walking barefooted, no shoes. Just walking barefooted, just walking all around Enugu, just roaming, just walking. I was just walking around. As I was walking, I was crying. I was walking, I was crying. You know, so I will never forget. And so, but at that point, it was during that period that, oh my God, it dawned on me. I don't know, for some reason, but I believe that when God has a purpose for a man's life or a woman's life, nothing can steal it. Nothing can stop it. So I believe that the one that brought me to this world, his purpose in my life is so big. Because if not, I have gone through a lot of things that I had made attempts, several attempts. I woke up every day wishing that my mother was...
When you say attempt to do what?
To take my life. Attempts to take my life. I made attempts to take my life up until, I think the last attempt I made was 2000 and, I think it was 2000 and, what was that, 2004, 2005, somewhere about then. So not too long ago, you know, but that doesn't mean that, you know, like, and the last time I had those ideations was probably like 6, 7, 8 years ago or something. So those thoughts come. And then, so, but this is me. So it was when I was battling with all of this, and then I was in the Western world. I learned about therapy. And I'm like, why not? Let me take advantage of it. And if I realized, even talking to 1 or 2 persons about it, that was when it dawned on me that there was a stigma attached to people. How people go for therapy. And I'm thinking, oh my God, it was so good. The first time I went for therapy, my husband took me because he saw that I was breaking down. I was breaking down because when I had my son, I was like, every day I was scared. I was scared of failing as a mother because my mother failed. She failed me. She failed me. So I was scared of failing. I was scared of a lot of things. Like my world was crumbling in front of me. And so I just booked, and then he took me. And I'm so thankful till tomorrow that I started that journey, because that was how, for the first time, I was able to actually let out. I was able to let, and I still see therapy.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, I had to go see my therapist. So and there's nothing, so these are all like extreme anxiety, extreme fear, and so many other things. You just, like this morning, I was listening to a radio chat on Shine FM, our station here, and a lady was talking about sex, between partners and all of that. And I'm like, well, you guys can tell that to the back of my hand.
Exactly.
Like things that don't interest you, as a matter of,
So let me ask you this question, because we're going to wrap up. For those who are there, what are the signs? Because I want this question to split in two ways. One, give me a second here. I think that's my mom, but I'll call her later. So the first one is that woman that is watching you now. What are the signs and symptoms they need to look for to make them say, maybe I need to go seek help? Now, if they have a child at home that is in school, and all of a sudden the behavior changes, what do they need to look out for that will make them say, okay, I need to go seek help?
Okay. First and foremost, you know yourself, right? Like me, I'm an extrovert. And then all of a sudden, when you start withdrawing, like me, I withdraw a lot. You can talk to me right now. You're calling my phone the next 3, 4, 5 days. I'm not even answering you. I'm just looking at that phone ring. All I want to do is just wake up, sit down in my bed. So when you start pulling out or pulling yourself away, you start wanting to be all by yourself. Trust is a big deal, because if you have gone through something like that, of course, you don't want to trust people. You can't even trust them. You don't even know who to trust. So when you start having all that fears, nightmares, withdrawing, wanting to withdraw, or suicidal ideations. You just wake up or maybe you're walking around along a bridge. I remember years back, not even in Nigeria, here abroad, but not here in Canada, in Europe where we used to live. And I was walking on a bridge, and all I just wanted to was just to jump into that bridge. Like I was literally going to jump. It was as if something just pulled my shirt. Like I was married and I was supposed to be happily married, right? But it was just me saying, I just can't handle it right now. I don't even know what's going on in my world. So when you start having all that, feeling, and from nowhere, you just get angry with yourself, or even if you're not angry, you're just like, I just want to end it. I don't want. So when you start having all those thoughts, seek help. Sincerely seek help, and then, for your child, when your child, all of a sudden, for children, there are so many signs. Your child that is 12 years, like I wetted my bed up until I finished high school.
That's believable, yeah.
And that is one big sign.
Exactly, that's right.
One huge, people didn't know. And then at a point in my life, I lived in the boarding school.
No, but back home now, you beat the child. Can
I tell you what they used to
do? You beat the child.
Dr. Princess, not just beating. My grandmother, because in my part of Igbo land where I come from, they worship python. So my grandmother will literally go and bring the python.
Ooh.
And I'm telling you, and so do you know that's why I dread snake till tomorrow? She will bring that python. She will say, if you do this next time, I'll tie this python around your waist. My mother will threaten, my father will threaten, they will disgrace you. When you have guests in the house, they will bring the mattress out. Like, this is what you're, as big as you are. All of that, but of course, that's how limited their knowledge was.
Yeah, that's right.
So, but I'm talking to you now, whoever is watching me now, the modern father, the modern mom, the modern dad. I'm talking to you. When your child that is 12 or 14 or 13 or 15, they are still bedwetting. And maybe you've taken them to the doctors and the doctor said there's nothing wrong with their bladder, nothing. And then they are always withdrawn, always in their rooms, always wanting to be by themselves, not wanting to mingle with anybody. They are, all of a sudden, your child starts being rebellious. All of a sudden, that child is being rebellious. Or your child starts sucking their thumb or their tongue all of a sudden. Nothing interests them. And then there's a common mistake that we make, especially as Nigerians, Africans generally. When you have this particular visitor that comes to your house, or you go to this particular, like if my mother had listened to my countenance the day I was raped, when she was forcing me, let's go visit this aunt, and I was dragging my feet because this cousin of mine has already, like, he's having sex with me like all the time, broad daylight, so it wasn't nothing. But that day, I was like, oh my God, can I be safe for once? So when I learned he was around, and my mother was saying, let's go to his house to see his mom, I was dragging my feet. But of course, how dare you say no? You will just receive a slap on your face for even saying no to your mother or to your father. So I want to say to you, modern mom, modern dad, it is true that, oh, children can just be rebellious, but it is also not true that your child that used to be your beautiful girl, that used to be so beautiful and so jovial, lovely, laughing all the time, all of a sudden, there's this particular aunt or this particular uncle, or you want to go to grandpa, or they are coming, and your daughter is saying, I don't want them, or I don't want to go. Listen to that child. Listen to that child, because you might be making the greatest mistake of your life by not listening. When it happens, the person's life is never the same. It is not something I wish on my enemies. I don't even wish I have an enemy. I don't have one. But if I have one, it is not an experience I wish on any human being. And I can tell you that. So, so these are some of the signs that we can find in our children, and it's just that it's unfortunate that most of us, most parents, most African parents are not intimate with our children, because we think that when we get intimate with them, they start insulting you. It's not true. Get very intimate with your child. Get very close to them. Get very, very close to your child. You need to know your child. It took me traveling to one African country where I was invited as a guest speaker years ago to speak at an event of over 500 people for this particular woman to go home to find out that her best friend, 52-year-old woman like her, was molesting her 10-year-old daughter under her roof. Because why? She said, go share my daughter's bed with her. It's okay, because she thought, oh, she's my friend, she's a woman like me. No, women molest little girls.
That's right, they do. And I think I'm going to probably do something on that, because a lot of times
I was a victim of that myself. I was.
Well, a lot of times we're so focused on the men doing it that we also forget that women too are also perpetrators. So can you wrap it up? At some point, I'm going to probably bring you back in on another topic, because I know that your story is multifaceted. What do you do in Canada now? Talk a little bit about Fearless Visionary that you're a part of, and then we just wrap up and look forward to bringing you back on where they can actually ask questions live, because that's what I really want. I want them to be able to, because like now they're going to see you, but they're going to put the questions in the lower part, and I'm going to ask them to do that, and then you can have access to go in and answer the questions. And then at some point, I want to bring you back so that live they can actually hear, because your stories just have they have different sides to it. Yeah. So talk to us just a little bit. We have less than one minute to go.
It will be my honor to come back and to do a live, to be able to talk to people live. That is, and I really appreciate it. I just want to say again, thank you so much for having me. And I want to encourage us as parents. I want to encourage us as sisters, as brothers. I want to encourage us, you know, to please do away with the stigma surrounding post-traumatic stress disorder. It's not, you know, it's the same thing. I was talking with a friend the other day, and she's like, my dear, you don't even know, even there's stigma, even with people that have diabetes. When you say you're taking diabetic medication, there's stigma. I want to encourage us to do away with this stigma, because it's because of this stigma that people that are going through things don't talk. And that's why we have a high rate of suicide. It is on the increase. The other day, a friend was telling me of her 18-year-old who was going to go commit suicide. So it is becoming rampant. It's all over the world, and it's becoming rampant. Now we're finding here in Calgary, last month, in the month of March, we had a 9-year-old little girl that killed herself. So it's becoming very rampant. So find out. We need to look deep. We need to, I keep asking that question, how well do you know your child? How well do you know your child? So I want us to please, these children have been entrusted into our care by the Almighty God, and we owe them a duty to protect them. We owe ourselves a duty to look after ourselves as well. And part of looking after yourself is finding a therapist. It can be a Christian. If you're a Christian, it can be a Muslim, it can be whatever, but just find like a spiritual guide. For me, that's who they are. And so there's no stigma around post-traumatic stress disorder. You go online and find out what it is. Go online and find out what it is. It's just like when people say they are depressed and they're taking depression medication, and people start treating them like they're mad. When you talk about mental health, Africans, we think, oh, the person is mad. And that is why we have a lot of mad people on the streets.
Exactly. They can't talk
to us.
Because the thing is, a lot of those people, if they were put somewhere with proper medication and everything, they can function. But back home, it's become a religious situation. It's become a cultural taboo, and that's the thing.
And that's the thing, Dr. Princess. People are going through so much. I'm telling you here. You know, some days, and that's for me. That's what my therapists do. That I get to sit down and somebody's listening to me without judging me. That's what it is for me. Somebody's listening to me without judging me. So, and that's what we don't have back home. Let's encourage one another. Somebody comes to tell you their story and you carry it. Like, I was afraid of that initially, but now I tell my story from the mountaintop. So before you want to blackmail me, I've already blackmailed myself.
Exactly. There's no need for that. You remove that.
I'm not afraid of blackmail.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I look forward to bringing you back. And because I want us to talk more about your story, because I really, really believe that the more they hear it, there will be people that will raise their hands. I believe it. Because when you have a group that's like 2 million people, I mean, the odds that 1 in 3 have not experienced sexual abuse is very slim.
Absolutely.
Slim. They might not tell the truth, but we know that 1 in 3 of people that are in there. So what we can do on our end is just to provide the information and leave the information with them, so that they be the one to ultimately say, you know what, I've had it. Enough is enough. I'm not keeping that person's secret. Because every time I'm quiet, I'm helping him to keep his secret.
That's it.
I'm not doing that.
That's it. If you don't call them out, they will continue to do it. Why did I start screaming? I started talking out because I found out that he was still doing it to the younger generation after me. And I'm like, no. That was when I started screaming, you know? And so I just want to encourage us. I really do want to encourage us. I want to encourage husbands. There are some men who have been molested and they're scared of talking to their wives.
Yeah, that's right.
They're scared of letting their wives know their story. But then you do so many weird things because you're human. This thing is somewhere in your subconsciousness, and it keeps popping out. You know, like when I see people around my daughter, I'm like, ugh. You know, so these things keep popping out, and then you act unconsciously. So when you discuss these things with your spouse or with your partner, then so that they know where you're coming from when you jump out of bed in the middle of the night or you're screaming or something, and they can help you.
Yeah.
So I just want to encourage us, you know, and we can have more beautiful marriages as opposed to what we have now. Like there's so many broken homes today.
That's right.
All because we don't.
And that's another angle that one can talk of another time too. The impact of PTSD, the impact of anxiety disorders, and the impact of all those disorders on marriages. I think that would be a great one. I'm going to write that down because I think I probably will bring you back on that one, because that is really important to really see, because I know with my first marriage, it had a tremendous influence on it, that there are times I didn't want him to touch me.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything. I just didn't want him touching me, you know, so, but that would definitely be something that we can come back. Well, thank you so much for joining. It's been fun. Thank you so much. Now, everyone, if you have questions, I ask you that to drop your questions down in the thread. I'm going to have her come in to the group to take a look at it. And then the other part is I will be bringing her back on again, so that this one that we talk about, I think I like that, because they're doing OBGYN, they're talking about relationship, talking about all that. And so it will be interesting to see the impact of all of these disorders on our marriages. What is the impact on our sex life? What is its impact? So that would be a good one. That would be a good one to talk about. So thank you all so much.
I discuss this with women all the time. I'm telling you. So I know. Oh my God, that is huge.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, thank you so much. God bless you. Bye, everybody. But hold on, everybody, because we're going to continue with our presentation. I'm just going to say bye to Onyeye. So hold on a second. Let me stop this.